Jake Newberry.
All right.
Welcome, man.
How's it going? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. One Chimp and Friends, season 2, episode 2 begins now. I'll put the music in later. I'm trying to figure out now how to get my file size smaller, because when I upload to YouTube, it's like 4 gigabytes, our show. And that's quite big, just at 720p. So yeah, it's
That's huge.
it is, it's quite large. Peter says, are you on? And so we're like, yeah, waiting on you.
It's usually me you're waiting on.
So anyway, a few topics to bat around tonight. I understand that Peter probably has a hot date right when this ends, so we'll be mindful of that. And I guess he'll be logging on. So
how is the snow in Turkey? I heard on the news that it was I saw the airport in Istanbul collapsed in on itself because of snow. Is it stopped now?
Right?
Or?
Well, we haven't had any. Yeah, we haven't had any here. You know, I was up in Istanbul earlier this week, and
cool.
And there was no snow then. The temperature, everything was the same as Denizli, so it's about 9 degrees. No real precipitation. We did have some rain, particularly on my way there. And all right, Peter Murphy, season 2, episode 2 of One Chimp and Friends, and Peter bringing it. I'm not sure what he's trying to express.
America.
What about Joe Rogan?
Oh, how about Joe Rogan? Yeah, so they're trying to cancel. Obviously, it seems like the boycott started, right? And that got a little bit of some ripples in the Spotify world. It's forced the a scrutiny about what Spotify does and doesn't have in terms of disclaimers about COVID content. Surprisingly little in terms of restrictions or whatever. Their chief of that sort of department had to speak about it and say, we haven't really put the leash on him. And now, now there's apparently some video or audio going around of Joe repeatedly using racial slurs, and I'm not sure what the context is, and I haven't heard it myself yet. I just saw this article. I haven't heard that at all. Yeah. Well, he's a comedian. He's a comedian. I think context is important. I personally have a problem with cancel culture being able to invade the comedic space. For the same reason that I think it's ridiculous that, like, you can't have a straight person play a gay person anymore without that being controversial. I mean, what is acting if it's not assuming a character persona that's maybe vastly different from your own? But, there's this weird thing that's cropped up in Hollywood where they're trying to accommodate people. And in one sense, in one sense, you understand it's representation, right? It's representation. But, I just got finished watching a series called Travelers, which has since been canceled, but it had 3 seasons. And the lead character was the guy who played the gay character in, I think, Will and Grace. And that guy's obviously straight. But for, a few years there, he had a very successful TV show playing a gay guy. And, in today's Hollywood, it might not be possible. There would be too much outcry that the person's not actually gay, which to me...
swing back.
Anyway, so Joe, what do you think? The cancel's in. Do you think they're going to be successful? Hell no.
The reason I brought it up so early is because I think if you go through YouTube, you'll see that many people are just too tired to talk about it. And it's just kind of like, okay, whatever.
He's got $100 million deal with Spotify. He's not going anywhere. This is great press for them. This is great advertising.
And also, everyone's seen Django Unchained. Everyone's kind of like the shock value went with that movie.
I mean, it's got 11 million viewers per episode, right? Mm-hmm. So that's probably ticked up to maybe 13 million.
It took the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The Red Hot Chili Peppers had a new single out on Friday. And
it's always nice. Red Hot. He always manages. He's like what's his name in The Big Lebowski? Always manages to bring it back to Vietnam. He always brings it back to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We don't give a fuck about the Chili Peppers.
I don't think
that shit is 1992.
This is new to me.
Red Hot Chili Peppers had a song out, a new single out on Friday. It took them 3 days. Took them 3 days to get to 3 million views. And Joe Rogan gets 11 million downloads, like maybe 3 times a day, as Martin was saying. So
that's really slow going for like Red Hot Chili Peppers.
But no, but it's the same with U2. This is about relevancy. It's like they may be good musicians. It'd be the same for Paul McCartney, Led Zeppelin. It'd be the same for all of them. The fact is, when Joe Rogan comes on, people are downloading it because they want to know what he says. And so many people have been talking about it for so long now. As I said earlier, everyone's just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like,
well, the problem.
It's so sad about what Joe's gone, because I loved Joe Rogan before. Like, the way he speaks.
I'm very glad to hear what you're going to say now, because that's the conversation I want to have.
Okay. Well, if we like Joe Rogan, or what we think.
Well, the fact that I think a lot of us, I've left comments before where I've sort of like taken the fictitious role of knowing what the Joe Rogan fan thinks now, because I think there are a lot of us who were totally with Joe Rogan for years, right? And then he went to Spotify, and it seems like the content's different. It seems like his opinion is more like out in a way that we didn't know before. And so it leaves some of us not believing that it's a real persona. And then it leaves others feeling like for all these years he's been lying to us, or because he's been like a very sensible person.
Do you think he's become more strange since he got the payday, as in like, I don't care anymore? Or do you think less strange because of the payday? Which is it?
More strange.
I can't.
More strange, okay.
Can you still watch his stuff on YouTube, or is it only
You can
Spotify?
watch clips. He'll give you 3 or 4 minute clips, but I have him on Spotify.
But you can watch it on Spotify, yeah.
But Martin knows that I love Jordan Peterson, okay? And we had this big conversation in a bar.
See, he's one as well if I'm kind of like mixed on. It's like, same with Jordan Peterson. It's the same with Joe Rogan. There's some stuff he says, I'm like, oh, what an idiot. But then at the other time, I was like, you can still respect someone. Respect someone even, and agree with some of the stuff they say. But do you know what I mean? You still have your own opinions about other stuff
Peterson
they say, you know?
Had a 4.5-hour podcast with Joe Rogan last week, and I listened to it. And it was the first time ever where I kind of sat back and said, God, these two people, they sound like idiots.
Yeah.
And it was because from Peterson's perspective, it was because he went outside of his zone of, if he's talking about clinical psychology, well, then I can't say anything. But he then started talking about climate and different stuff. And I was like, oh, no, stop. So maybe that's how people who hear Rogan and his guests talk about certain topics that they know about, how they feel when they go into a different realm that they don't know about. Maybe that's where it's coming from. Because when Peterson started talking about climate, I was just like this. Don't do it.
He says climate is everything, and then therefore can't.
He's playing semantics, you know.
I know he's talking rubbish. Like,
and I'm just kind of like,
really
it is in the English language. That's one of the definitions for climate. But when people are talking about climate in context, they're obviously talking about the weather and how it changes over a certain period of time. They're not talking about some English language word like climate. Well, the climate, does that just mean the climate of the room, the table?
Yeah.
For me, Rogan's fall from grace was when he recanted his moon landing conspiracy beliefs. When he put that down, I was dissatisfied how easily he then rejected something that he had every reason to question. And, you know, it started with that Neil deGrasse Tyson interview. And as so many times the case, Neil has never answered the questions which get right to the heart of the problem with manned travel beyond the Van Allen radiation belts. And Joe had an excellent opportunity there and he didn't do it. And the worst is that he walked away questioning what he had believed. And so that was a chief concern for me, because up to that point, he only really talked about things for which he was kind of well informed. And obviously the nature and success of his show, you're going to invite a range of guests for which you have lesser information and you're lesser informed. And I think what we saw was with COVID, we found a weak spot in Rogan's knowledge, resource. And I think that also triggered him in a way that sort of exposed his libertarian views that are quite well held by Republicans too. So for the first time, a lot of people Rogan seemed less progressive and more conservative.
But that's why a lot of people like him. And because, for example, so he backed Bernie Sanders. So progressives were like, wow, okay, this guy sees logic. But on the other hand, then he's like taking ivermectin and all that. So then right-wingers love him. But that's the thing about him, though. I think he's an honest man in a sense, for like, he's like many other people. Like, he's quite new. When he talks about subjects, he's like, wow, he's got his ears open. He's listening to people of different viewpoints. He's easily influenced by different viewpoints. But that's what makes him like the common Joe, I suppose. You know what I mean?
You know what this is, Jake? This is the Bono syndrome. This is Bono syndrome. I think so. Bono built roads in Ghana, all over Africa, helped with AIDS and everything like that. Has done lots of really great things for poor people, but at the same time, Irish people hate him because he won't pay taxes in Ireland and he lives in a big house. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you see your cool uncle and then you figure out that actually your cool uncle is actually like a Republican. Like, I hope you can kind of follow what I'm trying to say here. It's like for a long time, we thought Rogan was this Bernie Sanders guy. Then, he's taking the $100 million Netflix deal. He's going to a state that is going to charge him less tax also. Let's not forget that, like in Texas. So it's kind of like, well, don't you hate the homelessness, you're progressive. Why don't you stay in California and help? Why are you just going somewhere with your $100 million deal where you're going to get less tax? So with Rogan, sorry, just to interrupt you, but like with Rogan, it's like a lot of his old school following are kind of like getting to the point now where they're kind of like, wait, hang on a second, mate. I thought you were this. And as Martin was saying, now it seems that you're that. I think this is the point the three of us might be trying to make.
I think it's the same point. He doesn't fit in a clan, because politics these days is very clan-based. It's like, you're for women's reproductive rights, or you're pro-life, or you're...
Well, it bothers me when I hear TYT slam him. It bothers me when I hear TYT slam him a lot, because I still have an affection for Joe through the UFC work that he's done. But I've also slammed Joe as like a comedic fraud, because Joe is not funny, and yet he bills himself as a working comedian. And I mean, there's like no comedians that you know of who are not naturally funny, who in interviews and things where they're not in character and they're not on stage, they're still cracking jokes and funny as a motherfucker. And I defy you to find any Joe Rogan podcast footage where he's telling a joke. It never happens.
Okay, he's not.
And think about that as a comedian who's done so much work outside of standing on stage telling jokes and his little TV show bit once upon a time. He has never told jokes on his show. He is not a naturally funny person.
But you know what also I think has happened to Joe, Martin, is that he realized, hang on, how many times has Eddie Bravo been on the new podcast on Spotify? How many times has Brendan Schaub, Brian Callen?
Yeah,
Why?
well, they've moved. He's launched their careers, so you know.
But listen, hear me out. I think he's realized something, that my circle isn't trustworthy anymore. Brendan Schaub came out in a podcast, I think Theo Vaughn's podcast, saying that Joe Rogan cheats on his wife. You know, he used colloquial terms, but basically what people got from was that he cheated on his wife.
Well, why would Brendan do that?
Because he's an idiot and he's a terrible comedian also.
Oh, yeah, he's not a comedian. That's a joke too.
Oh, that guy's brain dead. Then you have Brian Callen, who's like, I wouldn't, like, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't trust him with a snowball in Antarctica. Like, that guy's a moron, okay? But he's starting to see, and then Brian Callen goes on, who is it? The Chinese dude or Vietnamese dude, Asian dude, who's got the hot girlfriend. He goes on Tiger Belly, that podcast. And Brian Callen starts talking about how, about Brendan Schaub. And then the wife of the Chinese dude on Tiger Belly, she has her own podcast, and she and her friends on that podcast start talking about how Brendan Schaub, without dropping names, tried to cheat on his wife with them. So you start seeing all these different podcasts, and as you said, he launched all of them. Now they're on different podcasts, and they're all talking shit. And through like just kind of him sometimes, and it's kind of like shit. He's looking over his shoulder saying, shit, these idiots are going to bring me down. Never mind me to saying that climate change isn't real or COVID isn't real. These guys are the guys who are going to bring me down. So I think he's under pressure, which is why he's coming out with all these Instagram stories saying, hey friends, how are you doing? Listen, I'm a knucklehead. I don't know anything. I have experts on. I'll try even it up. I think that's what's going on.
No, but I think that's also honest too. I think that that's how Joe really sees things too. So
no, he's a good guy. Just because you have idiot friends and have bad views, or inaccurate views. I have idiot friends, hi guys, and inaccurate views. But you know, that doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
I think so.
I think I think if Joe didn't have that platform, he probably never would have considered ivermectin, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's every likelihood he would have done what everybody else did. I think
he would have just got the shot.
Yeah, you know, so Trump, you know, that's the power of media. And speaking of media, let's talk about their impotence. So, well, you know, now it's all over the media. Oh, Trump tried to steal the 2020 election. And it's like, hello, we've been talking about this for 2 fucking years. And, you know, why does it take so long for mainstream media to finally regurgitate the information that the January 6th committee's finding, but which we've known about this whole time, like his plan to seize voting machines and to throw out vote counts and to install the National Guard here and there if necessary. And this is old hack, but it's being finally spun to us, the plebeians out in the public, by mainstream media. It's taken a long time. What do you think? Trump gets indicted criminally, or?
I have an opinion. This is my view on it, okay, about the media impotence, as you say. I don't know if it's them been impotent or if it's like scientific based, and bear with me. You're doing an experiment, okay? And there's a process, a scientific process when you're doing something. And you can't say it is it. Okay, this is X. And scientifically, you're not allowed to say this is X until you get to X and you close the report and you hand it in and it's peer reviewed, blah, blah, blah. Now, on your way to X.
Yeah, you're managing editors. editorial directive. That's all that is.
Yeah, but like
right.
you're pretty fucking sure on halfway on the way to X that it's fucking X, but you're not allowed scientifically to say it is X because you haven't finished the process. Now, I don't know if that's what the media was doing, because if that's not what they were doing, then they're evil as fuck.
I love that they've got
on?
guys. I love that they've got guys, a team of guys that are putting together all the memos that Trump hand tore, hand ripped up. They're taping them all back together.
Have you seen that film Argo?
President of the United States. That's the worst things happen.
With all the like Iranian kids just putting back the shredded pieces of paper together.
Yeah, well, fortunately, these are just hand ripped up by Trump's tiny little hands.
Oh God!
So
even I try and do a better job of that. My trash.
So anyway, what
guys? You know how much I enjoy Trump, and I just want to tell you something. I'm so over that now. Like, I'm sick of the whole conversation.
I know it is. Yeah.
And maybe that's the problem. Maybe I shouldn't be, because he did do a lot of effed up things. And maybe it's people like me and my like apathy to just life and news that why the media gets away with just moving on from it, or them bringing it up 2 years later or a year later.
I think Republican voters feel like the same as you as well. I think they're kind of getting over Trump now as well, to be honest. Like, his popularity is waning. And I think you might have someone like DeSantis coming up now in the ranks and stuff as well. And might be a challenge as well, you know?
I just restarted watching Bill Maher because he came back from his show. And even he seems a little bit kind of like, you know?
Yeah, we've been talking about Trump for a long, long time now.
Hey, how about the Irish Fisherman?
Guy's still the same guy.
Irish Fisherman.
Oh, yeah, we won. We beat Russia.
Russian Navy 0.
Again.
That's right. A man by the name of Patrick Murphy, the surname Murphy, meaning warrior of the sea.
Yeah. Warrior of the sea. We beat the Welsh and the Russians.
Well, there was that time the prince hung out on the island, and the Murphys there protected the prince from his, pursuers. And so Patrick Murphy, the head of the Irish Fishermen's Association that staged the protest, was successful. And that's a big win for peace. And, at the end of the day, the Russian Navy is like, okay, we'll just fuck off further down into the water.
Oh, it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for Russia and for the fishermen, because Russia were kind of like, yeah.
And then in the next little Bishop moves forward piece, Putin visited Xing in China for the opening of the Olympics there, and they had a little.
I'll be back in a second.
So that's kind of interesting that Putin decided to make that trip so that he could chat up. I also find it interesting that every time we mention China, Peter cuts his video feed. That is slightly distressing, because I've seen him talking with the same Chinese people on numerous occasions over the last, I would say, nearly 2 years. And he makes a lot more money. He talks about all his private students that he has, but I don't really ever see him do private lessons. And I'm deadly serious about that. But there's still like another, I would say, at least 10,000 or more that shows up in his accounts. So that's very interesting. Anyway, yeah. So, what's that all about? Shoring up support. Putin shoring up support with Xing. Very interesting.
But natural in it. Completely. They both got a common foe. Do you know what I mean?
Especially because since 10 countries are diplomatically boycotting the games, the US among them, Putin actually going to Beijing and being there and pulling his,
it's developing into the free kingdom strategy, I suppose, where.
And now he's back. You see, now he's back. So it's
there we go. Here, right?
Yeah, it's the free toilet.
You'll love the commentary after you departed, because I was just putting together some things just putting together some observations for Jake.
Chinese spy or something. I don't know.
Lately.
Yeah. The minute he starts talking about China, like
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that. We're just doing a little dive, a deep dive into your account.
I love America. I love America.
Yeah, see, that's convenient too. That is so convenient.
I love America.
Yeah.
How come you have that in your room, like, or your house?
You know what? I went into Biomery today, which is basically Old Town where we live, and I went to a miscellaneous store looking for deals. Well, actually, I was just looking for ice cube freezer things, and I found them. Then, like, I saw this, and I was like, yes! And I was like, I'm going to wear this tonight.
How much that cost you?
I think of Martin. I don't know.
How much that cost you?
Whenever I see, I don't know. Whenever I don't look at receipts anymore. Whenever I see an American flag, I think of Martin. I'm just kind of like, yes, he will love it.
That is like the worst observation skills ever. So
I told you, Jake, you'll love it.
Yeah. What else we said we were going to discuss?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh yeah. So that's the thing, right? A woman who took a Jewish surname on purpose in her early comedic days.
That wasn't by accident, no?
I mean, I personally feel like what she was saying was, what she meant to say was, the basis of this whole thing was an issue of humanity and inhumanity. And that, like, she was just taking a purely human level, right? Humans doing this to other humans, the community of humans, right? Like at the end of the day, it is murdering and interring 6 million people. And so her point was lost completely when she said it wasn't about race, because of course that happened because it was about race. And but I think what she was trying to express was that this is a challenge that exists for all humans, is to maintain humanity. And that was an example of a gross inhumanity. And she, just put her foot in her mouth. That's how it sort of came off to me. Because anybody who knows Whoopi Goldberg knows that living in New York City, being this woman who's got a long career in Broadway, if you live in Manhattan, in New York City, you're going to meet and learn and become friends with a lot of Jewish people. That's just, especially in that community.
I hate The View, okay? But that's okay. But I love Whoopi. She didn't mean anything bad by that.
Oh, no, of course not.
No.
I mean, Whoopi's Republican, make no mistake about. I disagree with, I disagree with some of her politics. But the woman is one of the very few people in the world that has won all of the major awards in the world. She's won Golden Globes, Oscar Awards, won Grammy Awards, Tony Awards, won Emmy Awards. She's won it all. She's won every single major award.
Jake, Irish people and Welsh people, we look the exact same. Are we the same race?
I wouldn't even say we are a race. I have no. It's a good question now.
Are we the same race with English?
Slightly different mutts, right? You're slightly
at the end of the day,
mutts.
we're so mixed.
Yeah.
For maybe in the past, Celts would have been different from the Saxons,
but only slightly, right? Only slightly, because in fact, the influence of the Nordic blood was already evident in southern parts of mainland Europe, right? So the Saxons, in and of themselves, probably brought some blood that came from the Nordic invasion as well. You guys were mutts for a good long time, all of you, every last of you, and me too.
I would say,
whatever the fuck I am.
listen, I would say, and this is my own opinion, but I know I don't want to go into like that. I know what I'm talking about. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to say it's an opinion. I would say that English, Irish, Scottish, North American, okay, and a good chunk of Northern Europe. I'm talking about France and Germany are mixed quite well at this stage.
Wales ain't.
No, and Wales.
Well, I don't know about. I don't agree about that with Germany. Because when I lived in Germany, I saw like German folks, and
you can like if you picked up a German and put them in London, for example, no London, maybe like I don't know, Cardiff, you wouldn't know by looking. Do you know what I mean? And that's
I think you could if you were living in Bavaria. Yeah, but folks look different.
No, there are different ethnicities. There are different races, but my point is that we're so.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it's pretty obvious.
I'm saying,
and Dutch people too. Like, if you can't tell the difference,
Martin, I agree with you. But my
like Portuguese
is,
and
a black woman who's in her late 60s, early 70s, to make this simple mistake about Europe, I think it's an honest mistake, because even myself and Jake right now, who are from Europe, we could go into this for hours,
Yeah, I think the only difference you could tell is the southern and northern, maybe, but then again, that's so. I mean, I love Turkish. When I lived in Turkey, many people would stop their cars and say to me like, "Oh, abi, nerede market lütfen?" And do you know what I mean? They speak to me in Turkish because I look Turkish, but then but I don't look out of place in Wales either. Do you know what I mean? So even on a Turkish, which is the other far side of Europe and going into Asia, there's still, do you know what I mean? You can still tell. You still can't really tell where people are from, The
Whoopi Goldberg thing is just I think that's like this. I hope this is the crest of the wave, where we're just kind of like, hey, maybe it's time to give everyone a break. You're paying people to be on TV and have opinions. The View. You can't then just go wild if she makes a simple mistake.
She has since apologized twice.
That's fine.
And
cool.
She got suspended, didn't she? Which is that's overkill. Like really,
listen,
I think people are getting sick of culture.
Listen, if an Irish guy, and everyone knows Ireland's history, if an Irish guy made a cultural faux pas, say in Harlem or in the Bronx or Compton in LA, I'm pretty sure the locals of those areas would give us a break. Okay? I am full sure that the Jewish community will be able to go break, because who cares at the end of the day? It was a simple mistake. I just think it's people who are looking for revenge on the cancel culture, because she's guilty of going after people. She is. But you don't want to. Two rights don't make a wrong. Therefore, let's let her alone.
Well, you have to wonder what makes somebody say that, what she said, because even the least informed person about Nazi Germany understood why they're, it's the Jews. Like,
okay, but what's her level of education?
That is at how much the most basic level a story about race. Like, no matter how you slice it. So it's very hard to understand how she made that faux pas, other than her attempt to reduce this to a question of humanity. And then she's just not about race, like kind of dismissive of it, without realizing that that's what everybody was going to latch onto, that she said when she was dismissive of race. Because if you think about this planet, like joining the Galactic Federation, we need to, I think it's a pretty consensus agreement, we need to all come together as humans, right? As a collective world, that governs itself with egality, and we will
never join that union.
And so in that regard, she gets a pass, and the ADL gave her a pass. They said, look, you know, we accept her apology. Everybody knows her long history in the community. So it is what it is.
She's not spiteful at all. It was just like
Right.
a bad kind of comment, really. Not like bad in the sense of morally reprehensible.
I'm more
it's just like
inclined to believe
the point wasn't that well made. You know?
How did we miss this? Can I just bring up one more thing in the last 5 minutes?
You can try to.
The metaverse crashed, thank God.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that in the news. What happened to the metaverse?
I don't know, it just crashed.
Facebook's crashed.
No, the metaverse is the stock went down by like nearly 50%.
Oh, I see. So, just to clarify now, like that's Facebook, yeah, metaverse.
That's the parent company
Instagram,
now. That's the parent company now to Facebook.
Everyone's sick of Facebook now, when I mean, I need to.
Well, it's just so cumbersome, and when you consider like it's got its hands in Messenger and WhatsApp and Instagram, it's like God, you just can't escape them.
Well, that's it. If it like, I think I would get rid of my Facebook if it wasn't the fact that it's connected to Messenger. And there's people who are still on Messenger who
for me it's the library of photos. It's all the images.
I've saved all mine. No, I've saved all mine.
And I know I can do that, migrate and all that, but I'm just too lazy to do that.
Oh, I know.
Mine is passwords. I log in with Facebook to every site that I use.
Oh, there's that too, right? Like I don't even know what my Zoom password is, evidently, but Facebook does. So, you know.
Thanks, Zuck.
Yeah.
Parasite.
It is hard because it is. I mean, we've all been there where we've just sat for an hour, just like watching stupid feeds or.
Well, I haven't done that in Facebook for years, and I never.
Oh, that's good, because it's such a brain kill, and also it's like, oh, I've just lost an hour of my life watching stupid, like 5-second videos. Like,
I never opened Facebook for that reason.
I've been reducing it a lot.
This is one of the reasons I gave up Instagram last year, if you remember. And one of the reasons I started to want to do it again, and why I hate like the sharing on it, and why I'm cutting down this year on it. I was on the bus and someone was going through their Instagram story.
Time for my heart medication.
It was it was basically their story feed was basically. I might as well have been looking at my friends.
Brought to you by Relenta, saving lives every day, like this schmuck.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know.
Peter, what was the story?
Their Instagram story might as well have been anyone's Instagram story. Because I was
they saying?
Looking. Well, like it's like eavesdropping to a conversation. I was looking at their phone, which I shouldn't have been doing, and they're going through their stories, and it was just the same shit that I see on mine. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's all the same.
When I open,
do you think that I thought about this, and maybe it's only because of our perspective of maybe I like our age group, but do you think for the interactivity, I suppose, of like people using Facebook and posting more and putting more pictures, do you think that's actually decreased where there's like kind of accounts now for kind of like dead accounts? Like Martin, you've got a Facebook account.
Yeah.
I've got a Facebook account, but we barely use it now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I see it all the time. Like people's accounts where the last thing they posted was 2 or 3 years ago. In fact, I just encountered that. Yeah, I just encountered that recently, and I can't remember who it was I was searching for. I don't recall, but yeah, I saw that, and I know who it was. It was somebody that connected to me on Instagram, but whose Facebook profile hadn't posted in a while. And there's a lot of those people, and that's why Facebook snatched up all these other companies, because they knew that their customers were migrating elsewhere. So,
but that's a good title for a song, Lost Users.
Yeah, that is,
Lost users.
But do you think it's happening to Instagram now? Or I mean, do you think the younger generation is just burning
TikTok
used to be awesome. It used to be like galleries. I think we've had this conversation on this before, but like, and now it's just blah blah.
Yeah, I see AJ go on there sometimes, and I'm thinking like, you know, God bless it. Like, but I'm thinking, what rubbish are you watching? Like, you know what I mean? It's like some good things on there.
I spend more
nice
time
photos.
swiping the notifications off my phone, and it's so bothersome. Instagram notifications, fuck off. I do not care about your, and I don't have TikTok on my phone, but I need to get a new phone. That's the thing.
But are we just too old, guys? Are we is our perspective skewed?
No,
because
this is where we are right
age?
now. We're at a stage where we're at the age where you're either going to make money off the idiots on Instagram, or you got to get off.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's Mark Zuckerberg's big plan. Is he's seeing the data and he's like, oh my God, there's less interact. Like Facebook and Instagram, they've had their heyday. Do you know what I mean? I remember about maybe 10 years ago where everyone would be on Facebook, you know what I mean, and stuff. Right. Everyone was posting daily. But now, like we've talked about, there's so many kind of dead accounts or users not responding. Sorry. But maybe his whole virtual interaction thing is his hope to kind of build back that new heyday with a new experience. But I don't know. Time will tell.
There's less engagement. That's the thing. Okay, less than a minute now, guys. Less than a minute. Thanks for coming out, Peter Murphy and Jake Newberry. Hopefully George is doing all right over there in the UK, and he's making that money. I've seen a couple images posted to his, as you were talking about Facebook. I did see it on Facebook. I generally open Facebook just to see somebody's story, for example, and then I usually close out after that because the story function very often malfunctions. But anyway, thanks for coming out to One Chimp and Friends. And hopefully we'll start this train rolling consistently and see you next week. Any shout outs?
Budweiser, sponsor me. I want to be sponsored by Budweiser.
Anheuser-Busch, certainly. Jake?
Take it easy. Is that, yeah. you.